Story she never planned to tell. It was a beautiful Saturday morning. Dara did not wake up to her alarm. She woke up to a wedding. The church beside her apartment had decided that Saturday was early enough to host love again. Even before her eyes were fully open, the church choir had already started singing about forever. It felt unfair. She lay on her bed, listening to the drums, the clapping, the happiness in the voices of the people. Every sound felt like a personal attack. She stared at the ceiling and started counting how many weddings she had attended in the past 2 years. Then she stopped counting. Her room, still half dark, suddenly felt too tight for the thoughts in her head. She rose, walked towards the window, and watched the bride entering the church. Dara turned away. She wished she could feel the same certainty as the bride. But certainty now felt like a luxury she couldn't afford. Brother Kunle, the only brother around her, wasn't someone she could imagine as her husband. She made tea, drank it slowly. She made another and let the kettle scream a little longer than necessary, just to drown out the sounds from the church. She had always told herself that marriage wasn't something to be rushed. But if she was honest, Dara wanted to be married, not in some distant future. She wanted it now. Her phone vibrated. A message from Kunle. Good morning, Dara. I hope today brings you peace. I was thinking maybe we could have lunch together soon. She read it once, then again. The words were calm, but she didn't reply. She didn't even smile. Then she deleted the message. It's not just because Kunle had offended her, but because it was not the type she wanted in her future. Kunle represented a version of her life she could not imagine posting online with confidence. Her phone rang again, and this time, it was her cousin, Doris. She told Dara she would be taking her out later, eager to introduce her to a man who ticked all her boxes. A man who was definitely an upgrade from Bro Kunle. Doris did not show up until late that Saturday. By the time Dara heard the knock, evening had already settled in. She had spent most of the day checking her phone, walking in and out of the room, and wondering if Doris had changed her mind. When she finally opened the door, Doris walked in, already apologizing. I'm so sorry I didn't come earlier. The traffic was terrible. And you know how weekends can be, she said as she dropped her bag and kicked off her shoes. Dara just smiled and waved it off. There was no point complaining now. She had already waited the whole day. They sat down together, and after a few minutes of talk, Doris reached for her phone. I want to show you something, she said. Then she started scrolling. First pictures, and then videos, clips of him preaching in church, speaking confidently into a microphone, standing in front of people who looked like they respected him. Dara leaned in without realizing it. The man on the screen did not look like trouble at all. In fact, he looked like the kind of man mothers prayed for their daughters. He dressed well. His shoes were clean. His clothes fit properly. He carried himself like someone who knew where he was going, not like Brother Kunle. This one looked polished. Every picture showed the same thing: confidence, calmness, and control. He didn't look confused about life. He looked settled. Dara tried not to react. She told herself pictures could lie, that people could act in front of cameras, that being fine on screen did not always mean being fine in real life. But it was hard. There was something about the way he stood when he spoke, something about how easily he smiled, something about how sure he seemed. Before Dara could ask any question, Doris' phone rang. She glanced at the screen and laughed. "It's him," she said and answered the call. They spoke briefly. Then Doris handed the phone to Dara. "Say hello." Dara hesitated. She took it. His voice was calm, deep and friendly. He talked like someone who was used to being listened to. He didn't rush his words. He didn't stumble. He asked about her day, like he genuinely cared. By the time the call ended, Dara realized her cheeks hurt. She had been smiling the whole time. When she lay in her bed that night, she replayed the call in her head again and again. Not the exact words, the voice, the confidence, the way it sounded like someone with answers. And instead of feeling cautious, Dara felt excited. The day of the date came faster than Dara expected. When she stepped out of her house that evening, she checked her outfit once more. She knew she was looking beautiful, but for this date, she needed to look her best. This was not one of those random dates she had gone on and forgotten 2 days later. This one mattered. When she arrived and saw him, she immediately understood why Doris had been so excited. Brother Richard looked exactly like his pictures. He's tall, neat, and confident. He stood up as soon as he saw her and greeted her with a calm, charming smile. He spoke gently, using words that sounded mature, spiritual, and impressive all at once. Everything about him seemed carefully put together. They sat down to eat, and from the moment they started talking, Dara felt at ease. He knew what to say and when to say it. He talked about church, about purpose, about building a godly home. And somehow, in all of it, Dara felt safe. He paid the bills without hesitation. He pulled out her chair. He smiled at strangers. He even quoted the Bible at the right moment. It felt like she had finally met what she had been praying for. But then, there were small moments, little ones, the kind people usually ignore. When she mispronounced a word, he corrected her, not roughly, but with a smile. When the waiter asked a simple question, he answered with a tone that made it sound like the man was foolish. When Dara spoke too passionately about something, he laughed and said, "Calm down. A woman should always sound gentle and soft." Dara noticed it. She felt it, but she ignored it because everything else felt so right. She told herself he was confident. She told herself he was just bold. She told herself again, no man was perfect. And besides, wasn't confidence attractive? The date ended beautifully, or at least that was how it felt. As she walked away that night, she smiled to herself. She replayed the conversations, the laughter, the compliments. She felt lucky. While Dara was busy being charmed by smooth words and polished smiles, Brokunle was somewhere else, kneeling quietly in his room and praying. He didn't make a scene, he just prayed. He prayed for her heart, for his own, for guidance only God could give. He prayed that Dara would see past appearances, past all the Instagram perfect smiles, and notice what really mattered. He didn't know if she would ever notice him. He didn't know if she would even reply, but he prayed anyway. Faith, he knew, wasn't about getting quick answers. It was about patience, humility, and caring without needing anyone to see it. She stared on her phone longer than she should have, feeling the honesty in his words, but in the end, she deleted it. It was easier to ignore him than to face what his message meant. Easier to stick with what was familiar than what was right. And so Brokunle prayed again, quietly, patiently, hoping, even though he had no idea that Dara's life was already starting to turn in a new direction, a direction neither of them could yet see. After that date, Dara wanted marriage more than ever. Her mind was everywhere. She kept imagining weddings, white dresses, and Instagram posts full of love emojis. She saw herself standing beside a tall, good-looking man, posting pictures that would make people stop and stare. And the truth was, she really wanted that life. She wanted the excitement. Yes, she wanted to stop being the single friend. She wanted it to be her turn. At home, things were not easier. Every visit from relatives came with the same question, hiding inside every conversation. Her aunts whispered about her age, like she could not hear them. Her mother worried more about what neighbors would say than how Dara actually felt. And Doris did not stop talking about the man of God she had introduced to her. All of it made Dara restless. Sometimes she felt scared. Sometimes she felt excited. And most of the time, she felt both at once. She kept telling herself she needed to be careful. She reminded herself how easily she had dismissed Brother Kunle and promised she would not make another wrong choice. But Brother Richard felt different. He spoke with confidence. He always looked neat and well put together. He was always at one church program or the other. When he talked about the future, it sounded real. Around him, marriage felt close and not like a dream, but something she could achieve. Dara tried to slow herself down. She tried to pray and think properly, but the more she waited, the stronger her desire grew. Then one day, Brother Richard asked her to be his wife. Dara did not take weeks to think about it. She did not pray or ask anyone for advice. She didn't even argue with herself. She just said yes. That night, she laid on her bed, smiling. It felt like she had finally won, like she had escaped being left behind. She told herself, "This is the best thing that has ever happened to me." Saying yes to Bro Richard felt like stepping into a new world. Dara pictured laughter, shared prayers, and days that would feel brighter than any she had known. The traditional introduction began normally. Gifts were exchanged, elders were greeted, prayers were said. But Dara noticed the small things. Her mother-in-law watched her closely, correcting the way she sat, the way she stood, even the way she spoke. Every look felt like an inspection. Every smile carried something sharp behind it. When it was time for her to find her husband and place the traditional cap on his head, Dara did as she was taught. She located him, bent slightly, and gently placed the cap. Then her mother-in-law leaned in and whispered, "In this family, we worship our men at every opportunity. You must learn to kneel properly for your husband." Dara laughed, thinking it was a joke. The sound faded when she realized no one else laughed with her. At the wedding, nothing became easier. The venue was full. Too many people, too much color, Too much noise. Cousins were giving instructions like supervisors. Cameras flashed non-stop. The pastor spoke, but the words were drowned by whispers and comments from the family. Through it all, Dara kept smiling, but every look from her mother-in-law felt heavier. Every instruction sounded sharper. Every well done carried something else beneath it. She brushed the feeling aside, repeated her vows, posed for pictures, nodded when she was told to. And all this while, she kept asking herself if she had misunderstood everything. The smiles around her felt too perfect, too trained. Dara told herself it was just wedding nerves, but her heart knew better. Days into the marriage, Dara had started feeling the heat, not the kind that comes from love or excitement, but the kind that wears you down. Her husband was not the same man she thought she married. Or maybe he had always been this way and just stopped hiding it. He corrected the way she spoke, even during normal conversations. He told her how a proper wife should behave. He questioned what she wore at home, what she posted online, and how she stayed on her phone. Suddenly, everything had rules. One morning, when Dara went to get her ATM card to buy food, it was not in her bag. She checked again and again. It was not there. Then her heart skipped. When she asked him about it, he said he took it. Like it was nothing. He said a husband handles money better. He said she did not need it anymore. For the first time, Dara spoke up. She asked him why he did not tell her. She asked him why he made the decisions without her. She asked him why marriage suddenly felt like she had lost control over her own personal life. Her husband did not shout and did not give any explanation. All he said was that she was becoming difficult. He said marriage was not a democracy. Dara went quiet because she did not know what to say anymore. After all, had she not been taught that a good woman does not talk back, that marriage meant endurance, that love meant silence? She told herself this was marriage, that maybe she was still adjusting, that maybe things would get better once they settled in. But deep down, she knew something had changed. The house no longer felt like home. It felt like a place where she had to measure her words, her movements, even her breathing. And slowly, the joy she had carried into the marriage began to disappear. A few days later, the doorbell rang. Dara knew who it was even before she checked. When her mother-in-law entered the house, it felt like the air changed. Dara no longer had space to relax. Her mother-in-law smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. She walked through the house slowly, touching things without asking, straightening what did not need fixing, opening cupboards, closing doors a little harder than necessary. Everything Dara had arranged, the woman rearranged them. The curtains are too wide open, she said. This sitting room is too warm. A wife should not allow her home to look careless. Dara followed behind her, listening, nodding, moving things where she was told to move them. In the kitchen, Dara served her food. Her mother-in-law tasted it once, placed the spoon down, and sighed. Why did you put so much oil in this stew? Is this what you've been feeding my son? A woman who can't cook properly won't keep a home for long, she said like it was a rule. Dara nodded and apologized. That same evening, somewhere far from that house, Kule knelt beside a small bed. He did not know she was crying. He did not know she had just been corrected for existing, but he prayed. He did not ask God to bring her back to him. He did not ask God to make her regret choosing another man. He only asked that she would not be in pain. Of course, he loved her, and her happiness mattered to him. Then his phone vibrated. It wasn't her number. It was a reminder that his data was finished. Kunle stared at the screen for a while, then dropped the phone and whispered, I just hope Dara is okay. When Dara's husband returned home that evening, his mother told him everything Dara had done wrong that day. He did not defend his wife. He did not ask his wife any question. Instead, he corrected her in front of his mother. And Dara, being a submissive wife, kept quiet. That night, she locked herself in the bathroom and turned on the tap so nobody would hear her cry. And for the first time since the wedding, she admitted something she had been avoiding. She did not marry just a man. She married his mother, and whatever control lived inside that woman now had a place in her home. Dara once believed she could manage control. She thought it was something she would get used to with time. At first, it came in small ways. The way her husband spoke when he was annoyed, short words, sharp tone, with calm face. The way he asked her to kneel and apologize, as if obedience could calm his anger. Every correction felt heavy. Every command felt final. Yet he always spoke softly afterwards. I just want the best for us, he would say. His words sounded sweet and they carried weight. Then the shouting began. Don't talk while I'm talking. One weekend, Dara told him she wanted to visit her family. He said no. She reminded him that he often visited his own parents. That was when he hit her. You became mine the day you promised to marry me, he said. From now on, you don't visit your family without me. The room went quiet. Dara stood still, frozen between fear and disbelief. She could not understand how things had changed so fast. The wedding photos, the smiles, the perfect images she once admired, they all began to feel fake. The man she had said yes to, the one who spoke confidently about God and purpose, showed his true self in this moment. Dara sat, her heart racing. She finally understood that good looks can hide danger and charm can hide storms. That was when it became clear. The story Dara would one day tell in a counseling room had already started. Dara still went to work every day and tried to act like everything was normal. Even though her heart was not okay, the office felt different to her now. The lights, the noise, and people talking around her somehow helped her forget her problems at home, even if it was just for a while. Her colleagues noticed she had changed. Some of them whispered. Some of them looked at her with concern. One of them, who always liked to joke, came close and said, marriage has really reduced your sparkle. Dara gave a small smile. It felt good that someone noticed. Then her phone vibrated. It was a message from Brother Kunle. Are you okay? Those simple words touched her heart. He didn't ask for too much. He just cared. Dara looked at the message for a long time. She wanted to reply. She wanted to tell him the truth, but she couldn't. She put the phone away. Some things were still too hard for her to say. She didn't know that more trouble was coming, that everything was about to get worse. The peace in Dara's flat ended suddenly. Richard's eyes dropped to her phone in her hand. Before she could react, he grabbed it from her. The message on the screen was from Brother Kunle. Just a simple question. Richard's face hardened. You are cheating, he said quietly, but his voice was full of anger. Dara tried to speak. She tried to explain and defend herself, but the words did not come, only tears. He held the phone up like it was a proof that Dara had done something wrong, proof that she had broken the rules he had set for her. Then, in one sharp move, he slammed the phone on the floor. Dara stood still, her heart beating fast. Then she understood something clearly. This was no longer small control. This was something dangerous. The next day, she gathered the broken phone and took it to a repairer. Later that week, she left work early and went to see her cousin Doris. She hoped for comfort. She hoped for support, but she did not get it. All men are like that, Doris said. That's just how marriage is. Dara forced a small nod. This was the same cousin who once said Richard was the perfect man. A few days later, after her phone was fixed, a message came in from her pastor's wife. Dara, I've been thinking about you. Please come to the church office, let's talk. Her heart stirred. For the first time in several weeks, she felt a little hope. Maybe someone would listen. Maybe someone would understand. Dara had endured everything. She kept telling herself that things would change. She smiled when she was tired. She kept quiet when she wanted to speak and hoped that love would one day replace control. But there is only so much a person can take, even when faith is involved. That night, she overheard her husband talking to another woman. His voice was calm, familiar, and careless. What she heard that night confirmed what her heart had been fighting for a long time. This marriage was not safe. There was no honesty in it, no respect. She did not confront him. She did not shout. She simply became sure. But this time, she refused to freeze in fear. Dara quietly packed her clothes. She moved gently so he would not wake up. When she was done, she carried her bags and stepped outside. Then she closed the door behind her. She didn't know what would happen next. But one thing was clear. She was finally choosing herself. And this time, she was not turning back. The counseling office was quiet when Dara walked in. She sat down softly, her hands folded on her lap. Her body was tired, and her thoughts were loud. She had been holding too much for too long. When her pastor's wife asked her to speak, she tried to control her voice, but the words rushed out on their own. She talked about the man she married and how he slowly changed. She explained the anger, the jealousy, the rules that never seemed to end, and the way he tried to run her life. She told her how she no longer recognized herself and how she had started feeling afraid in her own home. Tears fell as she spoke. Her pastor's wife listened carefully. When she finished, she told her something she hadn't fully realized before. What she had been living with wasn't normal. It was emotional abuse. Something shifted inside her. And then she stopped blaming herself. She understood she wasn't the problem. Dara left the office lighter than when she walked in. Her pain finally had a name, and her healing had a place to start. Dara returned to her old flat, the one she lived in before she got married. The place she used to share with her roommates. Nothing had changed. The small sitting room, the kitchen, even the smell in the house. And somehow, it made her feel safe. She unpacked quietly. With each movement, life slowly began to feel like it was hers again. Then her phone rang. It was Richard. She sat on the bed and opened the message. It was long, and she read it carefully. After everything I did for you, this is how you want to repay me? Other women are praying for a man like me, but you rejected me. You let people poison your mind against your own husband. You think life will be better outside? God does not support stubborn wives. The Bible says submit. If your life ruins from here, blame yourself. Don't think running away means freedom. Dara stared at the phone for a moment. Her heart beat fast, yet there was a strange calm inside her. She saw it clearly now. This was not love. She didn't reply. She locked the screen and placed the phone face down. Then she lay back on the bed and stared at the ceiling of the room she once called home. She knew healing would not happen overnight, but she had taken the first step. Dara slowly began to feel herself again. She filled her days with simple things that helped her heal. Prayer meetings, quiet time with her Bible, and counseling sessions where she could finally speak freely. She signed up for courses she had once dreamed about, returned to small hobbies she had given up, and started allowing herself to hope again. Nothing huge, just peace. A life that felt safe. Healing wasn't easy. Some days were light, others were heavy. But little by little, she felt stronger, more settled, like the pieces of her life were coming back together. Then one evening, after a prayer meeting, she saw someone familiar, Brother Kunle. He looked the same, calm and kind, but she was different. This time, she didn't feel uneasy around him. There was no pressure, no confusion, just gratitude for someone who had cared quietly and prayed without trying to control anything. When their eyes met, they shared a simple smile, the kind that meant, I'm glad you are okay. Later, he came over. I never stopped praying for you, he said softly. She smiled, and this time she noticed she could talk to a man without fear or tension. They spoke easily, like two people who had survived the same storm in different ways. Then her phone vibrated. Richard. Her heart jumped for a moment, but it didn't sink. She glanced at the screen, took a quiet breath, and slipped the phone back into her bag. She knew better now. Power no longer belonged to him, it belonged to her. Some days later, he showed up, trying again with guilt, scriptures, and threats, but it did not work. She stood her ground. You will return, he said sharply. You are my wife. God said, no, Dara replied, calm but firm. I'm not coming back. That was all. She blocked his number and closed that chapter without another word. When she walked back into her flat, Dara felt light, free, and finally at peace. 6 months later, Dara stood in front of her church and told her story. She spoke about noticing the warning signs and finding the courage to walk away from something that looked good on the outside but was hurting her inside. People listened, some nodded, some whispered prayers, some brushed tears from their eyes. At the back of the church, Brother Kunle watched. He prayed for her and hoped she would one day be all right. But Dara didn't belong to anyone now. She wasn't waiting to be saved. She had found her own strength, and for the first time in a long while, that was enough.
Thank you for watching till the end. If this story has blessed you, please like, comment, and subscribe.